tonight we've got a great guest. We got Tom Althouse, and he is the creator of the Matrix. Is that correct, Tom?
That is absolutely correct. In fact, we're the only ones here in this family that actually have an official copyrighted screenplay of it. So, and that's the 1993 version right there. I'm sorry, that's the 1998 version used instead of 99. So we're the only ones out of all claimants that have a certified screenplay that's 128 pages long, but go ahead.
So how did they pull the rug from underneath you like that?
They get you to trust you. Yeah, they use pretty women, they use attorneys, they use people who come in and are celebrities, and they get you to wow and woo right down their path. It's just like you're like a rat down the hole.
Wow. So everything, okay, because I've seen all the Matrix films and everything. And so everything on there that I'm watching, you created?
Yes, except for the dumb parts, because what you have is that they at Warner Brothers was a big debate and Disney how to lift the work. The problem was for them, guys, is that it was a shooting script. If you open this up, crack this baby open, you're going to see shooting descriptions, interior shot, day, night. It's a shooting script. So who writes a shooting script? I didn't know that. So this is ready, worthy to be on set and go. So how do you rip that off? If it was a book, no problem. But having a shooting script is difficult. They had not faced that before. Here's what they came up with. They needed small minds to figure out a solution. The Wachowskis, who are the ones that they claim, wrote, direct, produced, whatever, with Joel Silver, told the suits at Warner Brothers, here's what we'll do. We will make a visual storyboard on everything we think is cool out of this screenplay. We'll have a 600-page visual storyboard in the end. And then we'll make it up on set. Easy peasy. We'll make it up on set with this original screenplay in the hands and the visual storyboard in the other, and just shop it as we go, fill in what we're familiar with, and have a 20-foot rule that if anybody's within 20 feet to see the actual work, since they're too lazy to re-render it, they'll be fired. It's the first film in history, I think, since even, that's had a 20-foot rule that actors aren't allowed within 20 feet of the script because it's stolen property.
That is amazing.
So none of the actors, including Keanu Reeves,
Keanu Reeves, great question. Keanu Reeves was allowed. He was in on the whole thing. The suits at Warner Brothers insisted that he be the lead character. Wachowskis didn't want him. They wanted Will Smith or who's the guy, the famous Scottish guy that plays James Bond.
Sean Connery.
Sean Connery. That's right, Sean Connery. I can impersonate him, but I can't remember his name. So Sean Connery was another one they wanted. But the suit said, you're having Keanu Reeves play the part, no questions asked, because we need to save his career. And that gives you a hint. If the suits at Warner Brothers, who have orchestrated the theft, are saying they want to save the career of their main guy they're bringing in saying he's going to be in it, he's part of the whole thing. He's part of the theft. So he was allowed within 20 feet.
Wow. That does kind of line up, because what was Point Break was maybe the last thing that Keanu was in before The Matrix. That was quite a few years before The Matrix too.
That's right. I think it was something like, you could fact check me on this, I think it was Johnny Lightning he had done, and his career was
Johnny Mnemonic, that weird thing that nobody watched. Yeah.
So he was like this, Stairway to Hell, as far as his career. So they were going to resurrect it as long as he'd be loyal. So yeah.
Wow.
And did this go to litigation?
That's the wild thing about it. We were told, even by law schools, that they were following our situation, but they got the idea also how to steal it, like the art of war. They provided their own attorney from in-house, who was a classmate of their other lead attorney that got on the case, who was standing with the other attorney, they're all defense attorneys, 3 defense attorneys, who were lined up, one to take it over if we got wise, one to approach us and solicit us to take it, and one that was the lead attorney for Warner Brothers, all classmates from University of Berkeley, all defense attorneys. But here's the caveat. The one that was approaching us had a suspended license for over a decade. That way, nothing would be legit. We'd be blamed for it. He didn't tell us he had a suspended license. He runs the clock out on discovery.
Wow.
This is the attorney you got stuck with.
Tony Rankin. He used to be called Tony, but it is Tony Rankin. So Tony Rankin on Maui, and it gets even weirder. Tony Rankin also housed the woman that I would marry before I met her. She was an ex-con with outstanding warrants for prostitution and also from Modesto, California. And she was brought in, housed by this attorney, and then comes to me. So I wasn't just solicited by the attorney, I was solicited by this beautiful woman made over. And she stayed with me for the duration of the case being thrown and then left back to Mike Lang of Disney. I kid you not. Mike Lang of Disney, Harvey Weinstein's boss in Film Tracks or Miramax Films, which was Disney's creation in 93 to launder scripts they don't own. Follow me, stay with me on this, because we have the emails from Mike Lang on my birthday in 2016, when the case is fully thrown by these clowns, saying, Becca, her name was Becca Northcutt, Becca, move in with me for 60 days to his mistress pad. Showed a bed with a shaving kit, just had moved into Spokane, Washington, playground of Hollywood, and all these emails promising everything she desired. That's how they do it. And then the last thing we got to do as a family, my son and I, and she has nothing to do with my son because he was considered a product of the job, wasn't supposed to be born, she said, most incredible kid in the world, young man, amazing. So he is born, doesn't have nothing to do with, won't even hold him as a baby. And so what happens is she then leaves us after we go to Modesto courts, and we don't know what the charges are at first. And the judge is just going, all charges have been dismissed, all outstanding warrants removed. That's the last thing we saw as a family before she left us.
And I don't.
Go ahead.
I don't mean to bring up a sore subject, but like just disappeared off the face of the earth. Or...
No, she got set up. In fact, she had been flunked. She flunked out of high school and ends up after this with Mike Lang instantly getting a doctorate. Part of the reward program. If you're a prostitute, you'll become a doctor. The attorneys from Warner Brothers are saying this, or not from Warner Brothers, in Hollywood, are saying the real life story is bigger than The Matrix itself. And I've heard that a number of times where they say they got, goosebumps over it. Roseanne Barr, I'm going to see her on Thursday. I'm going up to her home studios to do a show Thursday. And she's like, this is the greatest story. Trump knows all about it. So what they've done is by trying to say in actually TMZ owned by Warner Brothers, the same attorney that was the head lead for Warner Brothers also was the attorney for TMZ, decided to use the Wachowskis in an article. And you can look it up. Tom Althouse article, Matrix case, TMZ, said, no, nothing hack, famous for nothing. You're just a hack. Well, that's really interesting because they also argued that since they did that article attacking, slandering, using Rankin, Tony Rankin, the plaintiff attorney, to not be able to address it, say you're not going to address this. They claimed that I was then a person of note, therefore I couldn't sue for slander. So if you use celebrities as attorneys to slander a party, you can claim then in their terms, well, you're famous now because we slandered you, so you can't sue us for slander. It gets weirder and weirder. Yes.
That is weird.
That's a law. That's a law that actually holds up.
Law according to Warner Brothers clowns. So yeah.
But like a judge heard that and said, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." We'll...
If it's their appointed judge, yes.
What kind of banana courtroom was this? This is insane.
To Western Division, California, the TMZ 30-mile zone Hollywood court system.
Wow. Now the guy who actually hosts TMZ, he's an attorney himself. Is this the guy we're talking about?
I don't know if it was then. This is when this article ran. It was in 2012. And so what they did, though, was it's interesting, too. You just brought something that stimulated something else as far as discussion. In 2012, what they responded with is they said it was written by all the staff. It says written by the staff. They didn't say even an author. So to avoid culpability, they say it was written by the staff of TMZ. And then they claim that only negative responses were given, and they posted all these negative responses. When someone I knew was very, saying, what about my positive things I've been sending through and others have been sending through, they refused to print anything positive. It was all railroaded, orchestrated exactly to make it look like the court of public opinion was completely against us. So we've never really had our day in court at all. But you'll hear them saying, oh, he lost. The judge saw, no similarities. Are you kidding me? Everything from the silver pen, Jack's neck, little girl at the train station, identical figures facing off at the end, red pill, blue pill, liquid mirrors, you name it. It's all right in that thing I just showed you, including the silver pen.
So give us a timeline of you wrote the script, they stole the script, they made the movie, then they made the sequels. You said you never actually had your day in court, but there was some type of hearing, or
It was their Breaker Moran, their version of Breaker Moran. So what they did was they supplied their own attorney. He solicits me, right? And the honeypot wife is then with me at that point. They wait till she's married to me. As soon as she's married to me, and I accepted her proposal, not knowing who she was. So we're married. Next thing, she has me meet this attorney that she claims she doesn't know at first. And he's promising $100,000, all that stuff. So we're being solicited that he's going to handle it and get a copyright attorney. All these promises. Never does. Later says never will. He runs the clock out on statute of limitations. It was a 1999 to 2009. You have 10 years to discover. They wanted me to discover, first of all. So I want to add this layer to it. They wanted the author to know, that the work was stolen. They used it orchestrating the honeypot wife with the attorney. Why? Because you have access to all the drafts, all the notes, steer which way he goes, keep him ignorant, throw him off path, destroy evidence, alter it, give it to the other side, make sure interviews aren't done, distract, argue. It worked really well. They ran the clock out and then said, let's file. So we've already lost. He didn't tell us he had a suspended license. Now, we go ahead anyway. He plays a game where he has us file it knowing we've already missed. He knows we already missed the mark. Warner Bros. Knows that. They ran the clock out, the 10-year statutes. So, because once in 99 to 2009, 10-year gap, they tell us in 2009 to the honeypot wife, hey, honey, look, work was stolen. Then you have 3 years after that. 3 years after that discovery, if it's that 10-year bracket, right? So 1999, 2009, it's deadline time. Make sure he discovers, the author, that his work was taken. Use the honeypot wife. And then what you do is you have 3 years to file. Well, the attorney ran that out. He ran the 3 years out. Keeps sending us back to rework matchups and everything, rework it. And finally, we even did a thing where we said, we didn't even touch it. We sent back what we had. And he goes, this is perfect. It was just about running the clock out. And other firms had said, if you had approached us earlier, we would have taken this, big firms. But that's why they provide their own attorneys. So then after we go ahead and he says, okay, I filed it. He has an email from him. He filed it after it's too late. And he says that he runs the clock out on serving the defendants. So he doesn't serve the defendants. So I step in at the end of that period, which is like 3 months at Western Division courts, maybe like other places. And I said, well, look, no one's doing anything. I'm going to contact the judge myself and let him know I'm trying to serve these people. And so he's like, no. So Warner Brothers attorney, who was a classmate, actually sponsors him to get his license renewed. And they do a stipulation order to allow more time for the defendants to respond, since they were planning not to respond because the clock was being run out by the whole circus of them. So if you follow what I'm saying, it was just one ploy after another ploy after another ploy. When I finally fired the bastard, what he did was he had the audacity to come back to me after a half an hour being fired. And he said, oh, by the way, I contacted my classmate, Linda Burrows of Warner Brothers, Caldwell, Leslie, and Proctor, and I told them they could proceed to summary judgment without objections. So after you're fired, you contact the other side and say you may proceed to summary judgment without any objections, killing our opportunity to enter any evidence that you've blocked all along. So therefore, the only way you're going to win summary judgment is if no evidence is there, no triable issue. So everything from Jackson Neck, liquid mirrors, the inserted material of myself, high school, birthday, all that, which we can get into in a bit, in the first graphic the Wachowskis put in the Matrix, everything's left out, everything's blocked, and that's the only way you get a summary judgment is you have to tie hands and gag your client.
And you couldn't refute that, saying that you had already dismissed your attorney prior to him making that he...
Great question. The part of honeypot wives and attorneys provided is to make sure you're sourced. If anybody knows what sourcing is, what they do is they make sure that you have no one left in your team because they've all been met, courted, and pulled away. And you're supposed to only trust the people that is railroading you. In the end, that's all you have. So you have nowhere else to turn. It's all been sourced away. So there's nothing I could do except just bite it.
This is like Total Recall with Arnold Schwarzenegger. They did place Sharon Stone in, kind of thing, the wife that wasn't really the wife.
We had a producer tell us that was the intention.
Wow.
Now, the twist of this, let me throw you a twist real quick, Phil, and you guys, is that the attorneys in Hollywood are saying to me on different calls will be done, sometimes for my associates or things, even Bob Iger's associate had a call that we recorded. And they're saying, yeah, everybody knows that it's your work. Everybody in the studio knows it's your work throughout the studios. They all know it. And you're actually a really cool guy, and you know what you wrote. So their twist on that, on the twist on the twist is you need to look to us, the cabal, the studio heads, to be where you'll matter, because the whole public doesn't believe you. So use us, and you can be a script doctor. I got invited a couple times to be a script doctor to do what, Paul? To do what, Phil? To do what, brother? To launder other people's work. And they said I'd be wearing.
Oh, they wanted you to do the same thing that was done to you, to other people.
They respect the talents, but they don't respect the compassion.
Wow.
Is that making a picture?
That's awful. That's ridiculous.
So the only thing that kept me going was my son, and also people like yourselves. I was told that by Disney on tape, Disney attorney, that you're winning the chess game because you've done interviews. It's all about the court of public opinion now. They need to see the evidence. And some of this evidence has just showed up. When I hold this up, the other side's outlandish. They're going to say, it's a forgery. Well, see the gold seal? Anybody into machine shopping? What would that take to create that forgery? And look at the PAU number on there. There's a PAU number. Well, that PAU number is logged into the Copyright Office's system, and it'll pull this up. So I don't think, that would be kind of a silly forgery to have it in the Copyright Office.
Tom, let me show you something. I'll be right back.
Go ahead.
What was the original title? What was your title?
Good question. It was called The Immortals. And what's interesting is we have an entry by Warner Brothers and HBO. HBO is the baddies in this too, believe it or not. So Warner Brothers and HBO, get this, ordered and commissioned Tom Hanks to write The Immortals and to have a certificate of authorship in 1998. So what you have is Warner Brothers claims they don't claim the Matrix title. They do not claim the Matrix title. They claim the Immortals title. The Wachowskis came up with Matrix by switching the letters of the Immortals, but Warner Brothers doesn't like that. So they're claiming we're not claiming that title. Isn't that crazy? So what they're claiming is the green scrolling blips is derived from our work too, the green scrolling blips. Anyway, go ahead.
Hey, Tom. Okay, I don't know if you can see this very well, but yeah, I have a bunch of copyrights too. And that's my proof of my creation.
Right.
And so you have a copyright with the Register of Copyrights, Library of Congress.
Yeah. Let me give you the PAU number. Okay, I'm going to read it off to you after I show it up to you. Ready for this? Just so we put this to rest, because they're drawing for straws now. They have this lady called Sophia Stewart, who claims to be the mother of the Matrix, who was assigned to me by Warner Brothers. So I have taped calls from her chewing me out, she says I'm responsible for the death of my sons. She was brought in by Warner Brothers to be a first claimant, because they thought the African-American community would then get behind that. She was chosen. That's why they made the Oracle look like her. That doesn't mean she wrote anything that applies. It just means they made it look like her, so audiences go, oh, it must be her. But her third eye is 33 pages long, not 128. In Hollywood, a minute is a page. A page is a minute. So that'd be 33 pages, or 33 minutes of a screenplay. That's not the Matrix.
What year is your copyright?
This particular one is 1998, used on 1999.
1998?
Yeah, my first register is 1993.
Okay, because long term. Oh, my light.
But here's the PAU number. PAU 2-304-074. Again, PAU 2-304-074. That should lay it to rest.
And this is like what the old copyrights look. They have that stamp right up on the top there.
Right.
You can see it. Yeah.
Right. Mine's stamped too, but it's not that kind of stamp. No, but yeah. See, what I'm saying is, how do you get rid of an author who was asked to pitch a full screenplay and pitch it in full to the top exec, submit it through attorneys with a tracking number and receipt, who has all the materials? How do you get rid of that? How do you make that go away? You've got to infiltrate. You've got to play it. So the honeypot wife, Sophia Stewart, Rankin worked with Sophia Stewart. Now, I don't mean to step on anybody's toes because this isn't about red, white, black, green, or blue. This is about humanity trying to better themselves in a world and give a warning, as I was whispering through art, of what the plans were for a one world society as I was being groomed by the religious right to be the face that misleads everybody, as Elon Musk is doing right now. Doesn't matter about race. Yet Warner Brothers will play the race card because that's how you take down a Caucasian, is play the race card.
Well, another weird thing, and again, I'm not. I have friends of any persuasion, but and this is just really doesn't have any bearing on any of this really, but it's just another weird part of the whole story is that the Wachowski or Wachowski, however you pronounce their last name, sisters started out as the brothers.
Yes, yes. And do you know why they were punished, Phil? Do you know why they were punished?
I do not know.
In the first,
I don't know
if
either.
anybody can, look up the first graphic in The Matrix. If you go to the graphic of The Matrix in the interrogation scene, the first scene they shot, look up the interrogation scene. There's YouTube clips, okay? YouTube clips of the interrogation scene. So you want the interrogation scene where Smith lays down a green dossier folder, opens it up for a split second, and on that is why the Wachowskis were punished. So if anybody wants to gather that up, let me see if I can get a breakdown. I can send you guys something too if you want to post it along with the like a companion piece with this stuff. They're actually saying at Warner Bros. I have too much evidence. They're saying you have too much evidence. How possibly can you have too much evidence, especially if a summary judgment was levied on you from a bought judge? So anyway, what I'm looking for right now is that one item. But what I'll tell you what's on that sheet, and this is going to be mind-boggling. I don't know if you ever heard this before, but on the first sheet in the interrogation scene, and this is what made Sophia Stewart just chew me out on the air when a gentleman from the story department contacted me after Sophia Stewart contacted me and said, "You're the missing link, Tom. You're the missing link. On Matrix 1, you're 2 and 3. That was a strategy by the Warner Bros. Attorneys. If I didn't claim Matrix 1, they end up saying, since you didn't claim Matrix 1, any matchups in Matrix 1 will not apply to 2 and 3, so there's no matchups. That was why Sophia Stewart was working with the attorney to make that push. And that's what the attorney and her were both doing. Don't claim Matrix 1, you're the missing link. How flattering. Now, in the original work, The Matrix, which made her lose a gasket, is because my high school is Neo's school. Central West. Central West. Central West. That's what we called it. Central Bucks High School West. Central West is what we called it. I have the Letterman jacket, the commencement thing, everything. So the Wachowskis put Neo's school as Central West. There's a lot of high schools in the world. Central West is pretty close to the mark. Keep in mind, there's a clearance department. Susanna Bolgen, the graphic designer, said that the clearance department is responsible for fact-checking anything that might violate copyright law, especially if it applies to the author. So she also adds in her article that we have that they would stack the entries to keep it interesting keep the piece or the work interesting for the Wachowskis, the directors. They would stack the entries. Now let's talk about stacking. So in that first graphic, and it can't be taken away, in fact, Sophia Stewart's retort was, you did this, you were on set, you did this, you're a patsy, you did this, you were on set, and you were part of this. I'm like, show me the money. I don't have anything. We were wiped out through this whole thing. So I was not in on it. So what happens is my high school, Central West, my name, Thomas A. My fiance's birthday, Otika Balls, is March 11th, listed as Neo's birthday. My dad's name, John A., is Neo's dad. My marital status is single. At the top is my birthday, above my fiance's birthday on that rap sheet. On the side, it says TA 4099. TA Tom Althouse was 4099 in 99. You've got how many entries in it, including my aptitudes on the bottom? So high school, birthday, dad's name, fiance's birthday.
This is all stuff in the script that they never changed.
I didn't put it in my script. They put it to mock the author. It's a good question. What they did was in the Matrix, if you go to any copy of the Matrix, here we go. So if you go to this one right here, let's see, right here, go to the Matrix.
Yeah.
Go to the interrogation scene. First scene I wrote, first thing they did. Please, please freeze frame the green folder opened. You'll see Central West. You'll see John A. You'll see Thomas A. You'll see March 11. You'll see July 22nd. You'll see marital status single. You'll see TA 4099. The Wachowskis were angry at Warner Brothers because another writer was brought in to replace them for Assassins, so they got even with the interrogation scene by putting the original author, copyrighted everything, all his information into the first graphic to one-up them. They did not count anybody from the story department to contact me, because people would say, why would they did that? Why would they do it? Well, here's the answer. Why would they do it? To mock the author, right? To feel better than the author. But who's the only person in the entire planet that's going to recognize those entries?
You.
That's right. What's the chances of me going through and freeze framing some odd thing out of a film? Unless
Well, I mean, you would be the person that would do it, of anybody. I mean, that's.
But I didn't know anything was there. I didn't know where to
Who
look.
who pointed that out to you?
A gentleman at the story department. He wanted to remain anonymous. He said, when we get this win in court, finally, he will reveal himself. So I'm looking forward to meeting.
You know. So just another question about the script itself.
Sure.
How much of the script was changed? There are a lot of memorable lines in that movie that people can quote. Or is there, was it completely redone, or is most of it just the way you wrote it?
Let me put it this way as a visual. It's kind of gory, but let's just illustrate. I think this will give it a good illustration. I think in pictures. Let's say you're the screenplay. We cut out all your entrails, spread them out all over the place, and say, here's Phil. This is Phil. DNA, everything matches, but you're all over the place. That's what they did with it. They unraveled it completely. They lifted everything they thought was cool. In fact, Joel Silver said in 2003 on set, when they did 2 and 3 and Animatrix at the same time, he said in the article, we just finished shooting. When we watched the rushes, we hope we used up the rest of the story. We hope it tied together. They made it. So what they did was they unraveled the whole thing. They did the visual storyboard, and the fight choreographer for one of the main fight choreographers for Matrix contacted me through a girl named Tiffany and told me, yes, I remember seeing your script on set. It was on set. So he's got good vision, I guess. Or he had to do a special shot. But he said he saw it on set being used this way. Now, here's the other part that's pretty fascinating, I think. Animatrix. Why do Animatrix? Why do a series of shorts? You're shooting 2 and 3, granted, that's a load in itself, right? No pun, loaded. But if you're doing a short thing, why? Here you go. Go back to Joel Silver. Use up the rest of the story. We hope we use up the rest of the story. So what he did was they did a shorts with their favorite Japanese directors to work with them of all the pieces they didn't get to use as they made it up along on set. That's why you have Animatrix along with 2 and 3. Makes sense? Use it up that way. Use a bunch of shorts. And they even used the Dream movie. And if you want to know why Neo flies and there's phone booths, because I pitched the Dream movie when Bonaventura said, is there anything else besides this is revolutionary? We're making this. Do you have anything else that you can tell me about? I said, I have the Dream movie. Working title, of course. And I told him about the Dream movie, about convicts that are in an experiment, that are grouped together. And our main character with the same name as the character in the Matrix that I had was being experimented on too. But he got this great idea in his dream to fly, to escape, lucid dream. He could fly. So they assigned him to all the different survivors. Whatever happened to your dream, happened to your body outside. He's assigned to all of them. What happens in that Dream movie, as I pitched it to Bonaventura this way, was that they're around a campfire at the start of this final thing, all hooked together, and he can't get them to save themselves. It's chaos. They're all dying. So he flies to escape. He wakes up. He's been in the dream experiment for so long, he's got a blurring on what's reality and what's not. Anybody thinking about Inception yet? That's what they did. Now, what happens is he wakes up, he finds a scalpel. There's a man in a lab coat, a technician facing him down. He's got the upper hand. He's got the scalpel right against him, right to him. But he backs up instinctively, feels a window ledge, and tries to fly. So what the Wachowskis do with this? 2 things. The Wachowskis thought, that's really cool. That's like Superman. Let's make Neo have Superman powers, and we'll put phone booths in like Superman. Which makes no sense whatsoever. When you know what's going on, then just figure it out. Phone booths, everything was dulled down and dumbed down. Phone booths, all you got to do as a Smith agents is have just a couple phone booths, right? Pass some laws in your little Matrix world and have just a couple phone booths. It's like rat traps. You got them. Just bug those. No problem. Supposed to be a smart architect, right? So other thing they did too was they used up that final sequence. Remember Animatrix? Using up what they couldn't use? Well, they wanted to blend the Dream movie with the Immortals to make Matrix. They blended it. Neo's not supposed to have Superman powers. The reason Neo escapes unscathed for the majority of the film is because the architect will not allow Smith to take him out. Why? because the architect's in an immortal program where his mind will atrophy from lack of stimulation unless he feeds off conflict. So he does not allow Smith, orders him not to take Neo out until there's going to be a certain time he allows it to happen. They portray Smith in mind. But that stimulates the architect's mind. That's why Neo doesn't have Superman powers in the original. It makes no sense to give him Superman powers in the Matrix because all he has to do is, it makes the fight sequences null and void. If he can turn it on anytime he wants where they're piling on the agents and blow them off, then there's no stakes. There's no stakes at all. He's got Superman powers. It's over, right? So if you just dissect it this way and put it back together, they made a mess of it. It's your entrails everywhere. It's a mess. It's no longer Phil.
When I watched it myself, I thought this was a kind of a nod to Joseph Campbell. The 17 faces of the hero, of the Messiah, the hero type architect thing, him finding out at the end. So I think it's. But now after hearing that, yeah, I guess if you look at it in a different light, it does seem like it could have just been all.
Well, Phil, follow it through. You're right on track. It's a brilliant mind you have. So how does the architect balance the equation in the original work? Figure it out. You'll figure it out. If you've got an architect who has to allow free will, because he needs that free will, has untainted members of human race outside the program for a certain event he's going to stage. He needs them untainted because he needs to balance the equation. Now, they just babble about that in the end to their one. But how do you balance the equation? How do you get people to give their free will over to you that will stimulate your mind and you no longer need your agents and you can purge them? Now, they kept the purging of the agents, but they make sense of it. So what do? What historic figure do you emulate to get all that stimulation from?
Jesus.
That's right. Come back as Christ. If you don't believe God's there, then come back as Christ. Fulfill the scriptures, and you got all these people, at least in Western society, pretty much, thinking that, oh my God, we're supposed to give our free will and worship over. That'll stimulate the architect's mind forever. So you just have to purge your agents, and you are actually fulfilling the requirements of the second coming because all he needs is their worship. Doesn't that kind of give chills? So that's where we're at in the ending. Bonaventura thought it was genius. He's like, this is absolutely freaking brilliant. Wachowskis didn't understand it. So what are they doing now? What are they doing right now? They're pushing the Wachowskis aside and saying, we're going to make Matrix 5 and do a do-over. They're going to do a do-over. Says the Wachowskis didn't write it. Is this all blowing your mind?
You're right. It's a movie. It's better than the movie. It's
right. Yeah.
And let me say something else too, because I want to, all of us here. Sophia Stewart accused me online of not having any African Americans in my script. Do you know the head of Underground is an African American man who's modeled after my dear friend that I did his headshots back in Colonial Williamsburg when I was with the Rockefellers? And I said to him, you got the look of give me the look of you can master like a quiet danger. I like to give him a mix for his acting thought. And boy, did he do it well. He did it well. If you want, I can run down and get a shot and show you what it looks like.
Want. Lawrence Fishburne is the man in that movie. He's arguably the best character in the whole movie.
Yeah, I would have cast him. I would have cast him. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good actor.
Yeah. He definitely was awesome in that. Keanu's great. Everybody loves Keanu, but Keanu was, Keanu was Keanu. Lawrence Fishburne was great. In the Oracle, as you mentioned earlier, she was fantastic. The
actress was good, but she had no real direction. No real.
Yeah, the actress, she pulled off that role.
The actress pulled it off well without direction. See, they didn't give her direction, but she brought an element of class and grace to it.
Exactly.
Layers, levels. I applaud her performance. It's brilliant. But the Wachowskis didn't give her any guidance, so she's left in a weird situation where she's playing almost like a bland character that doesn't care really about anything, but she has to give it some life and feeling. And I know as a award-winning performer, what's that like? And she pulled it off. I give her that.
Yeah, she did. I always loved the spoon. There is no spoon. I loved that line that was a little kid in that movie. But yeah, it's a fantastic film. And my God, what stories.
I'm going to say thank you because it is, like you asked, I want to answer your question about the original work. It's all there. But what they added embellishment, they unraveled it. They unraveled the whole story by ripping the spine out. the way I had it, guys, is that if you changed anything in this, it wouldn't hold together. It was that tight before I submitted it and pitched it. I was so pleased with this. I would go to a theater and look at this, before the show starts and look at the blank screen and envision it. It was so tight. And that's why people have pushed, publish a script again, put it online. I'm like, I want people to see the visual experience. I do not want that stripped away also. So what I've done is shown train station scene. I've actually shown the real stuff, the squiddies, all that stuff. I've shown the main elements and original pages, including the green scrolling blip, which I want to just point out right now. Remember I said Warner Brothers claims the green scrolling blips, right? Well, in this original work before that, we've got, what page is that on? Let me see here. Let me see if I can get this real quick.
You're a victim of Hollywood.
I'm a victim of Hollywood. Absolutely right. And you know what I don't like? I don't like them trying to play the divide us all against each other. What Barbara Walters said about this script was she loved it because it brought everybody together, all ethnic groups, races, faiths, and beliefs. She said that's why she loved it. But that's what was in the original work. The original work is the last remnants of humanity are all working together. We have no divisions. We have our cultures, but we all are fighting for our lives together. In fact, in my ending, I've got a group of polished African-American young men who are storming the dome in a desperate charge. What is Sophia Stewart talking about?
And Matrix is phenomenal, and it will live on forever. After we're gone off the face of the earth, Neo's going to still be out there.
Thank you. I'm saying thank you because it's all off the original work. But I wanted to point out to you, what's interesting is what they claim as their creation, right? The green scrolling blips. I want to see if I can find that really quick. Go ahead and ask some questions while I can multitask.
That green scrolling blip became the most popular screensaver in the history of screensavers.
Isn't that something? I want to find the original.
Everybody had that screensaver after that movie came out.
Isn't that something? So what I want to do is actually show you the page. I'm
I did it in IT since the early 90s, and everybody had that screensaver.
Okay, stay with me on this one. That's really cool. So look at the original graph, right? Opening, no magic here, to page 110. I'm going to keep it shown that there's no tricks here. I want you to, guys, freeze frame that if you can. Anybody freeze frame that, and I'll read it. Okay, so they're saying green scrolling blips is what they're claiming. This is the 1998 version done in 1993. The latest version that was used.
Scrolling map in green with blips on it.
Yeah. Now let me read the entry and I'll tell you this is the actual scene, identical. It's not just a matchup of green scrolling blips. It's the whole scene and every bit of its layers. Let me read it. Interior, again, shooting script. Interior, tunneler, underground. And get this, they reversed everything. The tunnelers are not the machine's weapons. The tunnelers are the underground city's weapons. Who is going to have the tunnelers, the ones that make the frickin' tunnels to make the city? I'm so sick of what they did with it. They ruined everything. They reversed everything and made no sense out of it. Guys.
I apologize for that, Tom. Ever since we lost Skype, Microsoft bought it out. We've been kind of reeling as to.
It allowed me to send you some visuals, just a couple of things we talked about on the email. So I sent you some things. So I think it was on your call. So yeah, so things we can address together. So it gave us an opportunity.
Thank you. So yeah,
we got that source. So let's go right at it.
All right. What I sent you, one of the things I sent you was that very page, that number 110 from the original work. Okay. It sounds like we're being academics here, but that's what we're doing. So at the top of that page, you'll see these words. I was telling people they can go ahead and freeze frame it. It says a young driver is having a blast operating the tunneler and playing loud music. He watches the screen showing the scrolling map in green with blips on it. And what's interesting is, if you look at the picture I sent you in the email, that's the exact scene. They didn't just copy the green scrolling blips in that scene. They copied the loud music, the headphones, watching it, navigating the ship with the headphones and the green blips. The young driver, they did everything, every detail. That's what sets us apart from other thefts, and also lays the mantle of responsibility that, as my son said, we cannot stop. We cannot give up. Even while the attorneys for Warner Brothers and Disney are bragging about what they got away with. They brag about it. In fact, the job of the other players like Stewart did them is to agitate, mock, and try to get us off balance. So what I'm trying to say is that we need to all come together, humanity, to celebrate arts from all cultures, where we can lift what's possible in our world by forming a think tank of great thinkers that have compassion and have humility to make a big difference in our world by working together. The cabal wants us working at odds. It's all in like that. Remember that video game Fallout? And that great, they did a great piece on Amazon about Fallout. It was a beautifully well done piece. But in it, they lay out everything. And in it, they say, they want to eliminate the factions, but they want us all fighting each other. We've got all the pieces. We've got the win. If they're calling and saying you won the chess game, let's finish winning together.
Tom, now you went out there in Hollywood and you're pitching this idea for the Matrix. Okay, so you had all the script and everything else that you created, that you wrote, but what if you wrote it into a book and published a book, which you didn't do that, right? You didn't publish a
That's
book.
what's so different. That's the usual way. Continue though.
Yeah. So you publish this book, the book goes out, becomes a bestseller, whatever. Hollywood comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to make a movie out of this." If you can go back in time, would you had rather had published a book and then go from there?
It's a great question. I never had that posed to me before, and I like that one. It's something new. I like it new. And to answer that, as it gets my mind going, I always say a good question prompts more questions. So here we go. It does. I wrote the working shooting script. They didn't know how to launder that really. That's why they came up with that 20-foot rule. But what's interesting is they tried to create books and have plausible source material that they could point to being books they created after I submitted. Now, mind-boggling. Well, your question is so good because in Oblivion, here's the example. Oblivion, held by Disney for Joel Silver. When the case was thrown in 2016, Oblivion is handed over only to Joel Silver by Disney. Remember, Mike Lang of Disney is the one from Miramax Films who is making sure they can launder screenplays, right? That's their job. His executive title basically was executive in charge of strategy for acquisition of intellectual property put on they don't own. So that's what they came up with. And I was privy to that strategy. That's what was applied to me, including taking your sons away. So what you have here is this screenplay, the way they tried to justify laundering was, hey, there's no book. Let's create the book. Now, here's what happens. They start writing the book Oblivion in this example, this one throw off. All three defendants, Warner Brothers, and we'll lump the Wachowski together, male or female, them as a group, and Joel Silver, all decided to take their take on the work since they had all my working drafts, all my notes and everything. After it's thrown, they figure I'm a dead dog. So they're just going to take, have it easy, get away with whatever they want. They're bragging about it. Their attorneys are bragging about what they got away with, how much it's worth, how much it was screwed. And here they go. So Warner Brothers announces Elysium. The Wachowskis announced Sense8. And the take for Joel Silver was Oblivion. Now, here's what happens. They start writing a novel, Oblivion. As soon as the case is thrown, they said, we're not going to finish the novel. They don't need it anymore. Talk about a telltale sign. They're not going to finish it because it's no longer needing a plausible source material for the work they're stealing. Now they can just do it right and wide open. So he does, and he does Oblivion. With the original theft, Matrix, they go to Ghost in the Shell. The director Ghost in the Shell. Now, Ghost in the Shell was around since the 80s, I think, right? But the director is then given the work in 93, 94. Joel Silver sends the work, The Immortals, which he said he bought with his spec money, to the director of Ghost in the Shell. What the director of Ghost in the Shell, he couldn't even handle it. So what he did was he came up with diagrams, illustrations, graphics, in order to claim, his job was to claim the work. So Warner Bros. Can say, we drew it off of you. We drew it off of your genius. See how they do it? Plausible source material. You follow? So what they did was they now do tours, museum tours of those drawings that was done with a Japanese director from Ghost in the Shell. But the first thing out of the mouth of the Planet Attorney, the one with the suspended license, was, we have to watch Ghost in the Shell. Interesting. Because he wanted me to watch the plausible source material right away to shut down the claim, right? And so that's what they did. So Oblivion, never a finished novel. Yet, In Oblivion, you have the identical figures facing off, little girl pointing exactly as the ending of my scene indicates. You have the stadium scene that they weren't able to use because it was over budget for Matrix. They got to throw it in there. The Field of Pods. And here's something very telling, if I may. In the original article where they were pitching it to the Warner Brothers, well, actually, they staged this, where the Warner Brothers execs, the suits, if you will, had sat down with a reporter and said, look, we know we have something cool, but we don't understand it. You can find this online still, I believe, right? And so the answer was, can you tell us what this is about? The Wachowskis couldn't. The Wachowskis couldn't. That's part of the reason they stuck all the personal information of myself in, as the guy who contacted me for the story department said, was to mock the author because they were angry that they didn't understand your work, and it was very insulting to their egos. Okay, great. So what happens is they have to, where was I? I just lost my train because I had a couple layers gone. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm so sorry. I had 5 layers going at the same time, and I took the trail down. So that's how my mind works as a writer. But I was getting to something there. Oh, shoots, I just lost my train of thought. Anyway, running.
So one thing I like to say is that, as an artist, myself and being around stuff where it gets taken, and, people like, if you go dun dun dun, and then they go dun 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 dun, but they copied you, and then they say, okay, and they play around, like, because in the music industry, it's like, you go into the studio, and they say, hey, man, we got this hot kid. They'll play my music, play some music. And then they'll have like some producer, and he'll be like, oh, well, that's to this, to that. But then as soon as you leave, he's already borrowed. He's trying to get a little influence from you because you're in the street already. His hair is not there. He's not out there dancing, writing this shit from scratch. He's not doing it for real. So it's like they have a lot of people that do those hybrid type situations, and they can take your shit over. I totally understand that. And I do have one, and I'm not going to even say the artist because I don't want to sound sorry, but there is one big song, actually 2, that I know for a fact I walked stuff in there and I saw how they did that. And it's not always a tangible thing. Luckily, you have some kind of paperwork, or some way to prove that, The other thing I was going to say is, as an artist, the way the street is now and the way the internet and all this now, it can backfire on them because you, as the original writer, you could take a young hotshot AI tool guy and have Sophia say, hey, you know what, Sophia, you're really that tight. You really do this shit. Look, check this out. Let's just have a write-off. You could have your guy and you could just write something like expository, because if I'm on a drum machine and somebody said they made my beat, the way I do I already know, like I could do it 1,000,000 times over. So, or the essence of what you do. So after you guys have that little battle, they'll not say, no, that's the dude that really wrote that shit right there. They can see like the semblance, like if you heard the Isley Brothers versus some other group, they always got the Ernie Isley playing that guitar he learned from Jimi Hendrix, and they got this funk playing. It's like a fusion type thing. It's like, it's them. And unless you got Ronald Isley and Mr. Jasper and those guys, you're not going to keep writing the same shit every time. You might get lucky on a few cuts. So I'm thinking like, man, you probably on YouTube, TikTok, Pantheon, all this shit, you can clean up because you can say, hey, look, I really am the guy. And the people decide, and during that melee, you're generating all this, because they're negative with you. Yeah. I mean, you might as well make use of that, man, because everybody buys that negative shit.
Genius. I wish you were my producer. Unbelievable. Great capsulization of everything, because you're absolutely right. It's like, I think of it, liken it like it's my daughter. It's my baby girl, right? You're going to know your baby girl. You know what flavor she likes, what color she likes to wear, what's her favorite animal. You know all that stuff. It's like, look who's talking, And so that, like you just said, and the other people, they don't. And so they're going to be like, they never want to face you down on a face-to-face on the air, because if you're covering over this, I can cover every aspect to what diaper it wears, and they don't know anything about it. They don't know anything. They're always pausing and just touting, I did it. Well, I did it. They're not going into the details of where it's fleshed out, where it generates from, where the back scenes are coming from, where the backstory is, filling it in, nothing. So what you just said was brilliantly said. I never heard it explained that way. And you just took me right back on track too, by the way. You just took me back on track.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, you just did, because what I was talking about, which you just took me in the layers, like you brought layers to layers and then took me back on the layers. I think in layers. So you just did it. You're a layer person. I love it. So what happened is, which is great in music. Music, people understand layers. Yeah. Layered music, everything else. So what it is that Joel Silver, when he took Oblivion, he didn't just take Oblivion. He matched it up completely with everything, where the suit said, robots, I don't understand this, robots in the program. At the first meeting, Joel Silver said, it's robots in the program. No, it's not. It's robot-like agents. Robot-like agents. If you're a agent in the program and there's a room of monitors, not for the architect to watch reruns and use this silver pen as a channel changer, but actually to Smith's room where he monitors every agent. If you show feeling, you're terminated. And it's monitored, your heart rates and everything else. You're terminated for showing feelings. And so that's pretty interesting layer, I thought, you know? And so what happens is you've got this room of monitors, you're not allowed to show feelings. And Joel Silver says it's robots in the program. No, it's robot-like people, because it's intense when you can't show feelings and you're human. So what does he do in Oblivion? After he gets all my notes and hears me explaining everything and kind of like, oh, it was dumb to say robots in the program, Joel Silver changes it to robot-like agents. Tom Cruise plays a robot-like agent. And he feels, and he has all these feelings. There's identical figures facing off, just as in ours. And what does he name the main characters? My sister's name and my brother's name, Julie and Jack, just because he wants to rub it in. He has a girl cast that looks exactly like the daughter I lost, who was the one I modeled for the little girl at the train station and pointing to the sun again. It's me reunited with my daughter. It's supposed to be her hugging Neo, Thomas A., not her hugging the Oracle. They didn't want the religious endings. They put Neo as Christ and put a gold cross on him. It doesn't work, Wachowskis. It doesn't work. Now, I'm glad people enjoyed The Matrix. Wait till you see it was the way it's supposed to be, unbridled and untainted and done right. In fact, on their fan page, they say, oh, we understand now it shouldn't have been 6 generations of Zion. No, it shouldn't have been. Go back to the original work, it's 1. The architect knows exactly where Zion is because he's going to employ it later with untainted humanity to see him come back as Christ so he can have the pure power worship where his mind will be stimulated forever and he can live in an immortal program comfortably by fulfilling exactly what's done. Now, the chilling part is he doesn't have to do anything else. He can be a benevolent Christ returning figure. The worst man in the whole history of the world, if it was a real life character, is now being our savior. Interesting, because all he needs is the stimulation of the mind. The more he gets you loving him and worshiping him, the more his mind doesn't atrophy. He'll play the part of Christ. Something's wrong.
Well,
Awesome. You know, when you were you mentioned earlier, probably about 10 minutes ago, that your son told you you can't give it up. You can't give this up. You can't stop. And that made me think about the lawsuit that went on with the intermittent wiper. You familiar with that?
No, tell me.
There's a gentleman by the name of Robert Kearns who sued Ford Motor Company back in like 1969.
Oh, yes, the wipers. Yes.
Yeah, the wipers. You know, wipers were either on or they were off. They knew how to make them slow. They knew how to make them fast, but they didn't know how to make them intermittent. And there was one guy who just like did it in his garage, and they didn't want to pay him for it, so they just stole it. And it took from 1969 to like 2005, 40 years almost, for them to finally pay up. So it was almost a 40-year lawsuit that they.
We're catching up to it. We're catching up to it ourselves. Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, Phil, because actually their side is actually telling me, and others along with it, when I do these events and be speaking at events, keynote speakers, they're coming up and saying like, yeah, those that have the greater will win in the end. And it's back to what Soul Brother was saying. It's like, you know, if it's your baby, are you going to let it go? Is there ever a time you're going to let it go? Are you going to just let it be taken away? Or are you never going to keep trying to get it restored? That baby has a purpose and has a mission. And it's to bring us all together and lift us all together and lift the ceiling on what's possible in the arts. And I was excited to share the work with everybody. At a certain time, let's go release the copyright to every man, woman, and child. Well, not everybody now. But the thing is, like, everybody is kind of cool. And then let them do derivatives of it. And that answers the question that Hollywood threw, which was, hasn't everything already been done under the sun? They like to throw that phrase. I said, no. If you did a derivative off this work, and if it was done properly to engage audiences, as the Wachowskis say, it was to bring audiences together, but they don't explain it. It brings audiences together because they have to fill the blanks in by inserting their own personal experience and lives to complete the picture. It's intended that way, with a lot of the backstory left out. That's what made it different also. And then each of it becomes a different work. No one's wrong in their takes. The worst version was the Wachowskis, but I mean, no one's wrong in their takes. And then you end up discussing with each other. So therefore, if you got 1 million people doing derivatives and permitted to do derivatives off of this particular Immortals Matrix, you got 1 million new films, 1 million new versions. Each person brings a different aspects to it. It's like music. How many different forms of music can you get off of keys of the piano? You know,
exactly. 12 notes and you can deal with it.
And
Sorry.
Tom,
Did you?
Disney.
I want to ask him a serious question though. Not to. I just Tom. I came in a little bit later, and I was wondering, did you mention something about losing your sons?
Yes, they what Disney did, it was really Disney and the cabal, the agencies, and now I understand it's the Pentagon. The Pentagon has actually been ever since, like, what's his name? Bush was in office, and that Rutledge or whatever guy that shot the guy he was hunting with. Anyway, they put a man in the high castle. They had this plan to make sure that they worked with Hollywood, because it goes back to Disney too, where they worked with Hollywood to check all content. Basically, you have to vet the screenplays. The Pentagon vets them, and the agencies vet them to make sure it's not a problem for national security. Unbelievable. We're in a like total totalitarian state, right? For artists, the way this world's going to heal is let the artists free range, let the artists create without restricting them, like the Japanese do. Let us be free range. Let us do our work. Let us share our work. Stop using attorneys to take it and turn it into big business and profiting. They're afraid of the influence that can be done. Yes, my sons were murdered. 2 of them were murdered. And then I got a tape with Disney where it says on the tape, they said, "We know you're concerned for your last son's safety." So they were saying,
Look, man, but from my heart, like regardless to the Matrix, all that, man, when I just didn't know that you had said that, and for me, that like supersedes everything. Like my heart really goes out to you, regardless of any of this shit, man. I couldn't even imagine, man. So I just would like to tell you that because I'm a parent has been through some shit like that too. So I can relate. I mean, not as far as how it happened and everything,
right.
but just anything when something happens to a child, it's not much understanding. I don't give a shit what nobody says. So my heart goes out to you.
I appreciate that so much. You know what's really wild? You think of too. I like dialoguing with you because you get the layers going. Like question, good question, good question. One of the things is, in my situation, you don't get a chance. Don't get a chance to grieve. You've got to keep going because they're hounding you. You don't get a chance to grieve. So you have to turn it mentally into, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to do what my son said, try to protect him and make a difference and see this through so it doesn't happen to others. That's the compassion side, right? That we have, the compassion side. That's what keeps us going without their predicted algorithm where we'll collapse and shoot somebody or kill somebody. No, we are going because we don't want it happening to others. And we're not going to take ourselves out because we can't help others if we're not here. So they don't understand compassion whatsoever. And on that tape with Disney, they made that very clear. I said, do you not understand about compassion and being a service to your audience? They said, no, you understand. We only understand it's all about power. Wow. Well, if it's all about power, your productions are going to suck.
Hey, Tom, I used to be in the comic book business. I used to interview creators. I used to review comic books and everything else. And I did some writing for Dark Horse Hellboy. And we're familiar. Yeah, you're familiar with Hellboy.
Yeah.
And
good work, by the way. Good work.
Yeah. And even my interviews, William Shatner for a while had some comic books, and I interviewed him. There was a time where I was talking to a comic book creator. I'm not going to mention his name, but I was telling him about my life story and with comic books,
right?
And how my mother was going to destroy these comic books, and she wanted me to get rid of them. So I went into the crawl space and I hid them.
Good.
Yeah. So before I knew it, the next time he wrote a comic book, there was my story. And he didn't give me any kind of credit, which kind of pissed me off.
Right.
So when I saw him again, I said, hey, I told you this story. Can you at least give me some credit? So he's so pissed off anymore. And he did. The next comic book, he gave me some credit. But I could see your anger, and something that you created, they snatched it, and they're not giving you any kind of credit. You have to go out there and you're fighting them, get that freaking credit. And I know what you're talking about. I mean, I'm on a small level. You're on this major level. If that was me, I would really be ripping my hair out.
They want to agitate you, right? They want to agitate you, and then they have the police and SWAT teams under the Pentagon and the agencies coming to your home, pulling you out and saying, he's agitated, he's dangerous. No, I'm not. But they add this extra thing that really irks me. It does irk me. They go, there's plenty of other stories in you. Just write another one. You know how hard it was to write the Matrix story?
Yeah.
And tie it together to get it perfected, to polish it. How many times I took, and we just got this in the mail returned to us. This is the original word brother processor. See that little tiny screen on there? This is what the written on.
Brother. I used to have a brother. Yeah.
This is what it was written on. We even have the original box. Look at this thing. It's a dinosaur. Here's the original box. We just got this in the mail back to us. All right, this beat up box. So that's what it's done on. Now, if you look at the screen, all you get to see for editing is that tiny little screen that has maybe a sentence on it. And I had to redo every single page if I had to do a change, which took it out of, pagination, where, one page had to overflow to the next. Every page had to be redone and retyped. It was
And
a
the
real
story, this story is complicated. It's not, you can't just throw another story out there.
Not only that, but you're talking about script format, Paul, and it was a shooting script on top of that. So there's script format, there's shooting script format, and trying to do that instead of a screen this big, you'd be better off working with a regular old typewriter.
Exactly, Bill. It's a good point you said about that, because you have to have this certain format, and you got to do that by hand. There's no pre-programmed format back there in '93. And also what happened was sometimes the system would do a bleed over, where it would double bleed, and you get double type over, like one of those pennies that's worth a lot where they double print it. It would do that. You got to do it over anyway. So it's like, oh my God, it was so hard to write this piece. And I kept thinking, this is going to change the world. This is going to change the world. I felt like I invented water. And it was like I wasn't allowed to give a thirsty man a drink.
No, and even if you could write 10 more matrices, the fact is, it's like Michael Jackson saying, all right, you've got all these other great songs. We're just going to take all the credit and money for Beat It away.
Right.
And take that away from you. Wait a minute. That's still his song.
Well, what's wild is I have 17 more, and I realized the way to beat the cabal, or the studios that are part of it and the agencies, is to see what they want most. They know what I want most, to see my sons grow up and have families and be happy. They know how to hurt me, and it hurt, but I'm not going to give up, and they're trying to use my last son as leverage. Now he's 18, 4.0, mechanical engineering, straight A's, PALs, soccer, varsity soccer, music. He did it all by himself with me as his mom and dad, while I'm banging my head trying to figure out how to get justice, and he did it. He came through. And so now he's 18, so they can't pull him away using child services or anything. But I was his mom and dad. But here we are at this point in juncture where I've got 17 more screenplays, and that's what gave him protection. By thinking about what they wanted, if this helps anybody else, I hope it will, is you do what they are seeking, know what they are seeking. So I told them on the phone, on that call, that same call, I said, I got 17 more, 16 at that point, 16 more screenplays at that point. They said, show us. How do we know you're not a two-hit wonder? This is all on tape. Because they're crediting the one that's greenlighted for Off-Broadway called The Domestics and The Immortals, right? So they're even admitting it right there. So I said, well, I'm not going to show you these. In fact, if anything happens to my last surviving son, I'm burning them. I'm digging them up and I'm destroying them. I buried them in a trash bag without even staples, so even a metal detector won't find them. It is buried in the ground. They said, you can't do that. Think of that. I'm talking about my sacred children's blood, their life, and they're angry about the scripts being destroyed. Screw the scripts. It's about our lives. We deserve to matter more, all of us. Our lives matter more than intellectual property. But not with Disney.
Billions of dollars, though. It's billions of dollars. It's like when an artist dies. Sadly, John Lennon was worth more after he died than he was while he was alive.
Exactly. And look what they did to George Michael. I don't know if you heard about that.
Exactly.
George Michael died over this work. So back to Soul Brother about George Michael died because he's the best witness to the work was done in 1996. The strategy of Warner Brothers to get rid of all screenplays that were pre-1996, dated pre-1996, and prove it. And let me show you what happens. So if we go again, let's open up this screenplay, go to the last page, and you'll see the end credits is music, Praying for Time by George Michael. Final credits. Now, why this is so important on this copyrighted script at the Copyright Office is that it's recorded in time, that George Michael reviewed this whole piece. In fact, I still remember what he said. Like, I wanted him to see it before I submitted it in '93, right? And I said, okay, he said, well, go ahead and submit it and we'll see where it goes. He said, we'll see where it goes, right? Which is, I'm never going to forget that. But the thing is, he read, I believe he read the script. He agreed to have it submitted because I sent it to him to check it out first, that he would feel good with his music as the end credits. And this perfect matchup, Wounded Skies Above, What's Here Is Over There, God Stop Keeping Score. It's so perfect. So he allowed me to submit it. So Warner Brothers, when the case was thrown in 2016, George Michael, they claim his heart gave out on Christmas, that his heart gave out on Christmas, like Michael Jackson. His heart gave out on Christmas when he's the perfect witness that the work was fully done in 1993. Now what happens? Now what happens is there was a break-in in my house. Excuse the cats, they're playing. But there was a break-in in my house 2 days before Easter this year. And all the original drafts that the attorneys had taken are now being restored. They're back in my bedroom, on my bed. They were there. 1993. This is the original first draft of The Matrix. Up in the corner in moldy letters, it says up-to-date corrections as of January 1994, just after Christmas 93, right there. That's not all in the stack that showed up. This showed up also. And what's interesting about this piece right here, this screenplay, it's missing the cover page, right? You saw the cover page on the other ones? Like, here's another one that was restored from 93 with the cover page, right? Right there, the cover page. This one was missing the cover page. The reason it's missing the cover page is because the attorney from Warner Brothers had a dinner at my house back in 2012, meets at my house and says, let me see all the evidence on the dining room table. We lay it all out for dinner. Is this everything? It's like Pulp Fiction. Right? Get it? So it's like all laid out. Yeah. And what's the right answer, right? What's the right answer when they say, is this everything? Probably, no, we got more, but it's not available. No, I did the Kevin Spacey. This is everything. You're waiting for the question. Have you shown anybody else? Yeah, right. You know where it's going. So what happens is his phone rings on a Saturday at my house. It rings. And he goes, I got to take this call. You got to leave the room. I got to leave my own dining room. You came over for dinner at my house and I got to leave my own dining room. Why? To take this call on a Saturday? Who is it? When I get back, I didn't realize it. He had my boy's art box. My little boy's art box was right next to, he was 8 years old at the time, right next to the table, right? So what Rankin did, Tony Rankin, he ripped the cover page off of this, stubs it along with the poor man's patent, which is you mail the full script to yourself, still has the creases in it.
Yeah, I did that for you.
He took out the full script and he took out the first page of the story treatment inadvertently because he was taking out the notarized statement. He didn't realize the notarized statement on the back of the notarized statement was the first page of story treatment. So he ripped it apart, re-glued it badly while we're waiting, and stuffed it down my child's art box, destroying the art. And the cover page ended up down there, and he took this. Why did he take this? It says, read and commented on by Trisha Fike, October 7, 1995. Look at that. This is proof that this script was read and commented throughout this version in 1995, pre-96. So Rankin took this. So this shows up in my house after all these years, from 2012 to just this Easter, 2 days before Easter. All these original 1993, pre-96 screenplays have been restored on my bed, in my bedroom, in a break-in by agents, I'm told. Michael Jaco is a CIA operative and also Navy SEALs. He said, this is what they do. There's a department in the CIA for film. And whoever it was restored the work. What does that mean? And what's interesting, in the original screenplay, Neo is a lower echelon CIA department head. Smith is over him in an upper department. He closes down his department, and that's what happens in the interrogation scene, not shown in some cell, in a stark cell without any ambience being recorded, but in his own home, where the stakes are higher. And that's where Smith is ordered to allow Neo to enter the program, but he's not allowed to take him out. And Neo's told that his family can't join. He can't tell anybody about his family, but he has to pretend to be still working for Smith at his upper echelon. And meanwhile, they're going to seize all the files. The Morpheus character, if you will, is Neo's partner at the agency. And he keeps the files and forms Underground. The backstory is all there, right? And at some point, I would love to read to you guys the interrogation scene, because in it is everything about the one world order and everything. If the question of why they would take the work, let me read that scene to you sometime. It'll tell you why they took that work. We had everything like the Pelican Brief. It was all right there. Everything came true. Everything came true.
It's absolutely incredible. we're hitting close to the end of the 10 minutes, so we're gonna end up getting cut off, kind of like we did at the mid break at any moment. I don't know exactly when. But I just, before we get there, I wanted to say thank you very much, Tom. This has been an eye opener and a great interview. And from the bottom of my heart, like Zandine said, I'm really sorry about your loss. I had no idea.
Well, if it wasn't for guys like yourselves, all you guys, I'd be buried along with my work. So thank you for allowing me to.
Sorry for your
on.
loss.
Yeah. They want you to think that all I do is mumble. Does the agency have said this over, and I have doctors even try to say it. All he does is mumble. He can't keep a train of thought. He makes no sense. He has no evidence. Wow. Seriously? That's why they're saying interviews like this wins the chess game. So according to them, we haven't seen the money, but we can change the world. And my call, I believe, was to call other artists together, almost like the mashed potatoes in, in Close Encounters. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm supposed to call together brilliant minds, brilliant cross disciplines, all kinds of belief systems, come together and let's solve world problems together in a brilliant artist think tank. That's what I've felt called to do. And
And I just gotta say, it's so amazing because Neil is actually the inspiration for a lot of other different characters, like Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist, Izuku from My Hero Academy.
Academia, yeah.
Yeah. So,
I'm March 14th, by the way, Tom.
nice job.
yeah.
That's
I'm
it.
on Team Tom. I'm on Team Tom.
I love it.
Dirty.
Okay, I got a question. Go ahead.
Thomas A. Anderson, okay, is Neil's real name. Now, where did they get that name from?
That's the really crazy thing about it. Thomas A. No brainer. Thomas A. Anderson. Anderson, because I was at Pat Robertson's organization. The 700 Club is school. It was called CBN University, now Regent University in Virginia Beach, being groomed to be the face of the Christian Coalition. So I'd mislead people like Elon Musk. I'm supposed to mislead people into following his agenda when he was running for president. Now, what's interesting is everything unraveled when I got taken on a trip in a motorhome by an associate professor or dean called Harry Soba. He told me about an event. He was gay, practicing gay. I didn't know there was a sex ring at Robertson's group, and he was involved in it. That's bleeds over into the work. And what's interesting is the reason they picked Anderson, get this, is because that's what made my world crumble. At Robertson's organization, there was a church called Kempsville Presbyterian Church. At Kempsville Presbyterian Church, a pastor named David Anderson stepped forward and confessed to his congregation, 2,000 strong, that he had sex with the president of Robertson's Regent grad school and Robertson himself. They had to have his PR person, Geyertson, step in as the minister for a year to shut this down. And we have the whole proof right here. So if I get this right now, right here, I'm going to show you something that'll blow your mind, I think. So here is David Geyertson. Didn't plan on this, but it's right there. David Geyertson, PR person for Pat Robertson, made millions for him. Let's listen to his entry about what happened at Kempsville Presbyterian Church. I was told this on the trip by the gay professor who wanted me to engage in him, and I was roofied on that trip. That's what destroyed my world. I lost everything, called into a meeting to be told what happened. That's where your interrogation scene comes from. It was real life, like Shakespeare in Love, and I was writing what I was being told in the scene to whisper through art, which I thought would be for future generations, and here we are. So I just told you that a pastor stepped forward named Anderson. That's why they put the names together, Thomas A. Anderson, to mock that that's really what brought my world down, having put me to that knowledge. Now, let's do this. From June 1985, from his resume, David Geyertson, who works with Hollywood, the connection for religious right with Hollywood, June 1985 to May 1986, a year. Hold it up first. I want to freeze frame it. Go ahead and wait till you see. This is the bomb that explodes Pat Robertson's organization. Now, let me read to you what happens. So that's where this all comes from. The Matrix, the germ of it, the beginning of it, the cause for it is from these events at Pat Robertson's religious right, planning a one world order where he would be interviewing Christ when Christ returns to him